Hello, Shemai Croeso, and welcome to the Fathers of Metal podcast with myself, Daddy Hugh.
And myself, Papa Ben. How are you doing, Hugh?
I'm okay, thank you very much. I went out for my first run today in about 8 or 9 weeks, and
Lovely.
I did not pass out, die, or even felt the need to stop, which actually surprised me more than anybody. So I was back on the old app Strava today for the first time in a while. So I did
Lovely.
what was it, a 5K run today in I think a respectful 26 minutes. So I'm
Oh, that's pretty
happy
good.
with that. So yeah,
Lovely.
and I was listening again. I'm not one to listen to music normally when I run. It's something I've never really done. I don't know why, but I'm enjoying running more now because I can just stick on an album of my choice. And today's choice was Seven Churches by Possessed, an album credited officially, sometimes unofficially, by being the first death metal album, or
Yeah,
the
it's
bridge
between them and death,
Yes, absolutely. So,
which is it's another great album song name. I think we've got Thrash Till Death, and now them between them
yeah,
and
them
death.
them and death, absolutely. So yeah, I'm good. So I think good. Either going for a walk or just spending time outside is good for the soul. So it's nice, especially now it's light in the morning. So it's fact I could run early in the morning and it was broad daylight. That was really useful. What about yourself? How are you today?
Yes, doing okay. Doing okay. Having a bit of a rest day in between workouts and that, so that's feeling quite nice. But it's been a really chilled day actually today. It's been nice. So yeah, nothing to report. Just kind of nice and chilled day. No dramas.
I wish I could say that, but my daughter only punched me 17 times in the face today,
Oh,
as
lovely.
opposed to 47. It is again she's 2.5 years old. So anyone who's listening now, just in case you're wondering why are you talking about fatherhood and not metal. So just a reminder to those tuning in, we are METALIDADS. So we are based all over Wales. We are a community of fathers who act as a paternal and well-being support network for each other and discuss all things metal as well as paternal. So subscribe to our YouTube channel if you'd like to join our small army also. Then find us on Facebook by visiting www.facebook.com/groups/METALIDADS. So why are we here for this episode? So welcome again to this is our first episode in our new series of top 10s. So tonight, right now, Papa Ben, in this episode, we are looking at, please tell our listeners.
We are looking at our top 10 favorite opening songs on albums. And by favorite top 10 opening songs, we're not on about opening tracks, because as we know, there's a lot of albums with maybe like anything between 10 seconds and a minute long, almost like
ambient sounds.
Yeah. It's not an actual song. So these are the top 10 opening songs of an album. Of which we could have easily done a top 50 probably.
As you said, our top 10 opening songs from albums today. Yes. Before we change our minds, because we've already been changing our list constantly. And as I just told you, looked at my list, I'm slightly underwhelmed because I know I've got a better one in me, but these are all, again, still major favorites of mine. So Papa Ben, you've got a sort of a top 10, a decently solid list, which you put together right now. And I think I've got a reasonably solid list. We've all tried to put a separate band in each rank, just so we're not talking about the same bands all the time, even though we could have. It was very difficult, I thought, to find the best opening track of all the works of a particular band. But again, maybe this is something we could revisit later on. But currently today, this is our sort of favorite opening songs from albums. So let's get started, Papa Ben. So I let you go first last time. Do you want me to go first this time?
Yes, go on then.
So I've tried to, I've tried to include a sort of a spectrum of different styles of metal through different eras of metal. I think I've caught it reasonably well. Unfortunately, I haven't got anything from the past 10 years in it yet. Again, that may come in because there's so much golden era of metal that came before this past 10 years or so. So I'm going to go, people might call this a bit middle of the road as my number 10. So my number 10, I've got Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses. As you say, I should have put that in. So Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses on their 1987 album Appetite for Destruction. Now, the reason I put this down, this is their first song from their first album, and it very much it was a filthier rock and roll sound than what a lot of the glam metal bands were doing at that time. They were a lot grungier in their sound, and this song actually helped me become a pretty tidy tenor singer, to be able to sing a rock and metal. I spent so many hours and hours trying to learn how to sing this song like Axl Rose, because of the power of this opening track. I wanted to sound and be able to do this song. So I've sung this thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and eventually my voice broke finally, and I was able to sing it. But I just think this song, it's got that, again, that sort of anticipation type of intro, like, the guitar sort of all over the place doing sort of it's just sort of doing palm muted bits, and then you got the jump, just that opening riff is just it's got so much groove, and none of the glammy-ish bands had a lot of groove in their sound. It was very much so that riff when it comes in, and the verse "Welcome to the Jungle" comes in, it almost has, again, it has this sort of wall of death mosh pit type of thing to it as well. It's building, and just go or just jump, and so
and it pays off.
Oh, absolutely pays off. But as a song, it's got so many juicy, tasty lead guitar bits, breaks, different sections. Again, the grooviness of that riff is amazing. Great ending. Ending variation of the chorus. The vocals sound great. The sound of the guitar is just dirty. I'll say dirty, but crisp and very good. And maybe Slash was potentially, along with maybe Kurt Cobain, potentially almost like the last of what you call the classic rock guitarists. I think so, if that makes sense, of that era. I think they were the cutoff point, but Slash was just oozes cool. So so my number 10, I've got "Welcome to the Jungle" from Appetite for Destruction.
Lovely. Okay, so my number 10, I haven't got anywhere near as much to say as I do about this.
No, I just sort of came off the cuff.
My list isn't actually in order, so I'm kind of looking at this and kind of ranking as we go. But I think this is definitely the 10, and that is a song called "Ruin," and that is by Lamb of God, and it's that opening track from "As the Palaces Burn." So this, for me, I think there's two other songs that I think Lamb of God have got that a lot of people would probably say are better opening songs than this. That's "Laid to Rest" and "Black Label." They're the two I'd say. But this one for me, it's always been something about it. Like there's no pissing around with this. Like there's no. Actually, you know what? Interestingly, it's probably it's kind of the exact opposite to your top to your number 10. Actually, "Welcome to the Jungle." There's no build up. There's no payoff. It just, like, you kind of, you, as you turn to look at this thing, it slams you in the face and just goes for it, basically. And there's kind of no letting up. It's but interestingly, you say dirty. This is, to me, it's got quite that dirty sound still as well. But it's aggressive. It punches you in the face, and at the end of the day, and there's there's so many different ways you can open an album. There's so many different ways you can open an album. You can build it up with anticipation. You can hit the ground running like this one does. There's so many ways of it. And this is great for that. It's not even a very long song. It's quick. It's dirty. Hits you in the face. Gets you ready for a fight. Basically, you're pumped up and ready to go, and then the rest of the album kicks in, and it sets the tone, and doesn't piss about doing it, and that's what I like about it. So
that's cracking. I'll be honest, I'm actually not familiar with the song. To be honest, Lamb of God is a band I need to spend more time listening to. It's just something that's just escaped me. I've seen them live by pure accident because they were on a bill.
Yeah.
And I definitely know, and I'm familiar with Laid to Rest because they definitely played that.
They would have definitely played Black Label as well. That's their like iconic Wall of Death. That's their iconic kind of Wall of Death song. So
excellent.
Yeah.
So just before we continue, just as a just for the record, neither Ben or myself are sort of like historians or experts on metal. We like metal music. We like to call ourselves thrash heads. All these podcasts are basically exercises for us to just expand our listing of metal. So already I know there's this Lamb of God song I now need to check out. So please learn with us and listen and open your minds with us. That's why we're here. So Papa Ben, that's your number 10.
Yes.
Is that right? So Ruin or Ruins?
Ruin.
Ruin, Lamb of God. Right. That is on my list. I'm making an invisible note, mental note. So cool, excellent. So my number 9. I was actually listening to it this morning, and it was the first song that came on the album I was listening to when I went for a run this morning. And again, it is the opening track for Seven Churches by Possessed, and it is The Exorcist.
Okay.
Basically, it starts with the Mike Oldfield Tubular Bells keyboard intro from the movie 1973 William Peter Blatty film The Exorcist, and it just kicks into this absolute killer, really dark thrash death metal type of song or riff. And for 1985, from all the albums I've ever heard from 1985, this was by far the heaviest guitar sound that existed back then. So again, as we were saying before this show, that album itself, Seven Churches, I can't remember if it's the last song or the penultimate song, but it's got the track name Death Metal, and this album is credited along with the band Death with their album that came out, Scream Bloody Gore, 2 years later. These two albums were sort of the first death metal albums. So again, the guitar sound, the vocals, the aggression was just something completely different. Again, it was something we like to say quite regularly, between thrash and death. So it's almost like the bridge between thrash metal becoming death metal. This became the first real bridge. So this is amazing. It's sort of it reels you in like that Tubular Bells is very minimalistic. It's very repetitive, and then all of a sudden you got this sort of dissonant chord on the keyboard, and it increases in volume very quickly, and then just boom, all the instruments, the guitar, the bass, and the drums just sort of hit you in the face. Very much, I suppose, just like the Ruin did by Lamb of God. But this is the reason I've included this in the list. Very much like Welcome to the Jungle. It's very much, here we are, guys. Here, world, hello, here we are. Just a major statement. And in regards to extreme metal, which was, in its infancy in the early 80s, from Venom, then with Hellhammer and Celtic Frost, then Death came next. Then Possessed came next. So I think this was a major statement as a sound. So I've not only recently I've come across death metal and found it quite palatable, but I've known about The Exorcist for about 15 years of my life, and I think this song has just stuck with me for almost 15, 20 years of listening to metal because of the impact and the sound and the freshness and the extremity behind the sound. So my number 9 is The Exorcist by Possessed from their 1985 album Seven Churches.
Oh, lovely. It's been an album I've been meaning to listen to, so it's definitely going to go on the to listen list. So it's cool. It's cool. Great running music as well, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, very good running music. I didn't quite get to the end of it, as the album's longer than 26 minutes. But it's if you like thrash metal, or if you like death metal, you like it. But it's incredibly heavy thrash. Again, it just gets that extra bit darker again in lyrical content and everything. But I won't say the quality of the album, the recording engineering of it, it's quite echoey, very much in the spirit of the first wave of black metal, like for example Bathory, their 1984
that was a pretty rough recording.
It's got that sort of lo-fi sound to it. Vocally, I think the lead singer for Obituary must have taken a lot of inspiration by the lead singer for Possessed. There's again, 5 years before their debut album, Slowly We Rot. Slowly We Rot, I think, was their debut album,
something like that.
1990, which we covered in our 1990 Rock Perspective album show. But yeah, so you love it. So listen to it whenever you can. Yeah, I think you really enjoy it.
Amazing. Cool. So my number 9, I've been mulling this over. So I think I'm going to give number 9 to, I'm going to give it to Given Up by Linkin Park.
Oh, okay.
From their album Minutes to Midnight.
Now, if I remember rightly, didn't you say this the first time you heard it years and years and years ago? You didn't like it, but
I didn't like
years
the album.
later, that's it. But years later, you've grown to sort of it's grown on you.
The album in general, back when this came out in 2005, 2006, I would have been about 15. Really, massive into Linkin Park at the time. Hybrid Theory was, well, everyone knows. Meteora was just took that to another level, and you think, oh, where's this going to go? This is going to get better, and then they went a completely different route, very very rocky and very 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 different route, and when you're that 15-year-old kid with all this expectation, and then listen to it, like I listened to that album, quite disappointed, really didn't like it, probably doesn't listen to it for 10 years, and then about 5 or 6 years ago I listened to it again, and I was like, you know what, actually I can appreciate the change. I can appreciate it, and I think that's, not to go off too far off a tangent, but I think I can understand why some bands can be a little afraid to try new things, because honestly, the fan base can actually be quite aggressive and quite toxic regarding that. And Linkin Park have always, they've never been afraid to do it, but they've also had a lot of quite toxic criticism as well, as a result of them having a go and kind of doing what they want to do a bit more. So, but yeah, that's just a thing, I suppose. But no, this particular song, I funny enough, the last time I saw you, not the last time, couple of times, I played this in the car to you. It's the one with the 16
the scream. Oh, mate, that was cracking. Oh yeah, the emotion in that scream was so didn't they effectively build the song around the scream to a certain extent?
Mike was saying in an interview that he had written the song, gave the lyrics to Chester, and I think they said they were rehearsing it, and the layout to the song was quite different, and but Mike just said, look, do your thing with this, make it yours, like, so he did, and during like a practice or whatever, when Chester belted out that 16-second scream, Mike was like, oh, okay, we got to rewrite this whole song, because Chester was like, oh, is that too much? Mike was like, no, we're keeping that. We're gonna and basically they rewrote a lot of the song and repurposed a lot of the song around that moment, and it's a very epic moment. And honestly, I could potentially say that's why it's in the I've put it in the top 10 because of that moment in the song.
That's amazing.
The song in general is great.
Studio magic.
Yeah. I mean, the song in general is great. I like the start, which is just the hands clapping. It's kind of with kind of like some bells in the background, and then it's very like punky, very very punky. When it kicks in, very punk sounding bass as well. It's great sound. Actually, to be fair, I would argue it's a punk song until the bit where he belts out that scream. But it's a punk song, but it's great. It's a really great. It's very upbeat. It's really cool, and that epic moment in the song is pretty much the reason why I put it in the top 10. So
that's amazing. That's a real. It's almost like it's a very different type of choice song to put in your list. Like again, the first two I mentioned have been sort of like debut songs by a band, but this is again.
I nearly put
band's transitioning. Yeah.
I nearly put Paper Cut by Linkin Park of this. But,
okay.
I actually decided to go with this instead for today.
For today, for today, 23rd of March. Cool, man. That's an amazing addition. I really like that choice. So so moving on. So my number 8. This is an example of I think a band refinding their feet or finding their form again. This song has always been, every time I think of brilliant opening tracks to make a statement and to lay the tone, this song comes in my mind all the time, and it's Disciple from Slayer's God Hates Us All.
Oh yeah, I need to put this in.
I just think the opening riff is just killer, but again, it just keeps going up and up and up and up in ante up until the last second of the song.
Yeah.
I just feel the opening riff is cracking, but then when Tom's vocals come in first, that's it just goes up a notch. But then when the drums start becoming a bit groovier, it goes up, and then just the name of the album, then shouted out loud, God Hates Us All, God Hates Us All.
Yeah.
And just that sort of like reverby guitar. It's just like, wow. Atmospherically, it's just wow. And again, I think we've said this in a previous podcast episode, that I think Rain in Blood and God Hates Us All, those two are the best album or guitar sounds.
Yeah.
Or that's the Slayer sound their best in those two albums. So this rivals Rain in Blood in regards to just the sound engineering. I think it's amazing. So, and again, it's encompassed in that opening track. So to me, my number 8 is Slayer's Disciple from the 2001 God Hates Us All album.
Lovely.
Cracking album.
Yeah, it's a great album. Okay, so my number.
So what's your number 8, Papa Ben?
My number 8, I think I'm gonna say is. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna say "Blood and Thunder" by Mastodon. It's nice. It's a cracking song. It's it's very it bounces. The whole song bounces. That opening guitar, the and then the drums, and then the whole thing, and then I mean the music video it's a massive clown party. That's literally what's going on.
Yeah, it's got this Smells Like Teen Spirit vibe.
Yeah,
to it. It's almost like this dark, this angsty type of dark lighting type of thing.
And it's a great song. I actually forgot that this was the opening song of that album. I
didn't know it was an opening song. Yeah. Okay, that's amazing.
And I was like, oh yeah, I've got to put that in. It's a party. It is almost a party song, you could say. Like, it's if you were having a metal themed party, this could definitely go on the playlist because it bounces and that it's great. But yeah, I tend to gravitate towards songs. I don't even mind if a song generally isn't amazing, but if it's got a part in it that really sticks out to me, that will change my perception of the song, because I know there's a build up at some point to, even if it's not intended, like, oh, that bit's coming now. I'm I mean, this is a great song anyway, but I just like that bit where it kind of all breaks down towards the end, like middle end, I suppose. When you've just got Troy, instead of singing, he's basically just almost like chanting as such, but he's barking out commands that Ahab would have been barking out. What does he say? I try. Break your backs and crack your oars, men, if you wish to prevail. And I can't remember the rest of it, but the way he says it, it's very like, but the way he says it, he's barking out these commands as if he's Ahab, if you know what I mean. And it is Ahab, isn't it? I'm getting that. Yeah. If you that's it. Break your backs and crack your oars, men, if you wish to prevail. I can't remember the rest of it. Something to do with white whale.
That's okay, I'm sure.
If you see the white whale,
Moby Dick,
Ahab. But again, it's when this whole thing breaks down and he's just there barking these. It's so atmospheric and it's just so cool. I mean, honestly, I think Mastodon are the kings of the concept album. Because pretty much every song, every album they do is a concept, and this one is.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Every album they do, I believe, is a concept. I believe.
That's interesting. I didn't know. Again, a lot of my knowledge of metal music, again, the past 15 years, I wouldn't say it's a bit of a blank, but it's when I've had not as much time to put in to listen to it, or it's not naturally been around me, mainly work and life getting in the way. But so Mastodon, again, like Lamb of God, are sort of in that sort of time period where I wasn't paying too much attention. But again, writing it down, I Blood and Thunder is the one Mastodon song I'm very familiar with, and again, for the same reason, I think it's brilliant. Again,
that whole
it's just
album,
that you can just imagine literally an entire room full of people.
Yeah, the whole album, Leviathan.
Yeah, it's very highly rated. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people would say it's their best album.
Great name for an album.
Leviathan, yeah. The artwork is incredible as well. Love it.
Leviathan normally references creatures from the deep. So you obviously mentioned Moby Dick. So is that sort of the thing?
The album is the story of Ahab hunting Moby Dick.
Ah, okay, cool. Because there's an amazing late 80s sci-fi horror movie called Leviathan, which is sort of like it's like the movie Alien but underwater. It's cracking. So yeah, every time I think Leviathan, I think it's a who's in it. But yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
So cool, man. That's a cracking example of just bouncy, just boom, just a crowd going up and down like that. That's a cracking song. Again, another band I need to get into. So again, we said before we were quite curious if we're going to have the same opening songs on our list, and so far I've put some in which you've almost put in. So I'm not sure if this is going to be the same for the next one. So number 7 is an album by a band. I've known a couple of songs by the band growing up, and they were massive in the 80s in thrash metal, but it's just one of those bands I've never put the time into listening to. And I only heard the debut album, I think middle of last year, and I thought, why does it take me so long to listen to their debut album? It's amazing. And I said, I reckon this song is a better debut thrash metal song than Metallica's Hit the Lights, I told you. Yes. So my number 7 is Anthrax, is Death Rider from their 1984 album Fistful of Metal. Now, the opening riff is just brilliant, and then when all the drums and all the instruments just come in again, I know there's a theme happening here, something happening, then all the instruments coming, etc. But again, as a statement, it's just amazing. And I am a massive, the vocal, I know, if I remember rightly, this singer was only on, I think, this first album. I'm not entirely sure.
Yes, I think
but
so.
I think that's the case. But I'm a major fan of, Rob Halford, Judas Priestish, screechy vocals. As a tenor singer, that sort of something I've always wanted to try and aspire to sound like, or to have that type of tenor range. But I really like vocally what Anthrax do, especially that first singer, and it just really hits home, and it really works well to the aggressive nature of just that opening riff and just that song.
Yeah.
So I think, Hit the Lights by Metallica from their Killer album, which obviously came out the year before. That's a great, a quintessential thrash classic. It was, it's laid a foundation, etc. Even though, of course, you got to credit Dave Mustaine with being a part of that original setup as well. Yeah. But yeah, man. So my number 7 is Anthrax's Death Rider from the 1984 album Fistful of Metal, just because it's just a major slap in the face. Just boom. This is thrash metal. The glory days are upon us over the next 6 years or so, which it was the golden era of thrash. So yeah, that's my number 7, Death Rider by Anthrax.
Lovely. Where should we go now? So what number are we on? I'm losing track.
Well,
7.
You're on number 7.
Yeah, my number 7. So my number 7 is going to be. Oh, it's a toss up. It's a toss up. You know what? Actually, as boring as it is, it's between one of two songs, but I will actually put number 7 down as Death Rider as well.
Okay, well done.
It is on the list, and it was maybe a 6, but actually I think I'll put the other song as my number 6. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Death Rider is my number 7 as well.
I can probably guess what it is. I can probably guess what it is, but I won't say, because I think we had a conversation about this earlier. So your number 7 is Death Rider. Why do you like Death Rider?
Um, it's it completely caught me off guard, and I when it comes to music, I like being caught off guard in a good way, you know. And I come into this not expecting anything. I put this on, and if that's the first thing you hear when you have no idea about this album, you think, oh, you know, I've listened to a lot of Anthrax, but it's like Among the Living and that album, and what's the other one? Persistence of Time.
Yes.
So a lot of that kind of listening. You know, when you go back into the history and but yeah, put this on. I remember I was in the car and I was driving home, put this on. I was, oh, I better listen to this, ready for the rock perspective. Bang, put that on as I was driving. I was like, what the like a proper was just like, whoa, like what the hell is going on here? It just kicks you, in the gut. There's no, again, it's very unapologetic. It's very, you know, I am here. Well, more
Yes.
specifically,
Yes.
like you say, it's a debut song.
Yeah.
It's a debut album from a debut on a first song. Like, what a way to introduce yourself as a band. Like, imagine being like, just imagine like people in 1984 by, you know, oh, Anthrax. I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard they're really good. That their first albums. Oh, that's amazing. You buy it and you think, oh, I wonder what these guys are like. You're really interested. You put that on. I say in the CD player, it's probably more like vinyl back then.
Vinyl. Yeah, absolutely.
You put that on, it it'll blow you away. That song, it'll blow you away. So it's an absolutely fantastic song, and yeah, everyone needs to listen to it.
Absolutely, you absolutely need to listen to Death Rider by Anthrax. It is a cracking song, and again, as a debut, debut song, debut album, it's a brilliant tone set. Really is,
Ignore the cover in the mid track 3 though. Ignore it.
Skip track 3. That's exactly what I was about to say. I think even the band members will say skip track 3 is not worth it.
No, it's a cover. It's not a very well done cover. And for all intents and purposes, the majority of the band didn't want it. I think it was the singer who absolutely demanded it had to be in. So, and we know my feelings about covers. I'm all for them, but they go at the end of the album when they have no consequence on the flow of an album. So yes, if you do listen to this album, skip track 3. It doesn't exist. So
exactly, skip track 3 doesn't exist. Just don't tell Alice Cooper that. Right then, moving swiftly on. So my number 6. This is probably one of the only songs on the list. Actually, there's 3 songs on my top 10 where these albums were released when I was born. Oh, no, it's not I was born, when I was around during the heyday of this album for me to remember it first time. So this is actually the first one on the list so far. You've already mentioned this band as well. You were almost going to put this down, but this song got me into nu metal and Kerrang and MTV2 and Scuzz, and it just got me sort of more friends in school because I was walking around with a hoodie with this band written on the front of it. And when I hear it now, it just takes me back to time and place as a teenager, and the memory of just listening to it on CD on my own mother's portable CD player and just cranking it right up, and I was just immersed in the sound. And that song is Paper Cut by Linkin Park from the album Hybrid Theory, because I just think
it's Genesis, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you know, first song, first album, again, Genesis, as you said. It's just got a really
I was going to say, although you know, there's going to be, you know, there's always an argument for who started what genre and everything, but for all intents and purposes, you know, Linkin Park, you know, nu metal is Linkin Park, if you know what I mean. And so there's a very, very strong chance that you would never have heard, like, Linkin Park would most likely have been most people's first experience of nu metal. So
yes,
and
absolutely.
they were so early, you know, it was so early in they released their album so early into that game that if somebody said to me, oh yeah, I'd say Linkin Park were one of the first bands to do nu metal, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to argue against that. So for all intents and purposes, it's the first song of a debut album from a debut band from a debut genre, if you look at it that way. Like, this is the genesis for nu metal for a lot of people, and what a way to do it.
Yeah, man. I remember again watching Kerrang as well. They had a cracking video. Well, it wasn't cracking video. It was just them sitting in a room jamming.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was weird because the bass player had an acoustic bass.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was really weird because it's a full-on electric, heavy sound, and he's just like jamming an acoustic bass. But it's funny. There's like these like faces coming out of the wall. It's like a really creepy video, but it's just brilliant. Again, it's such a catchy. Again, it's the element of, it needs to have heaviness and the element of rhythmic vocals.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, looking over my back. It's like so you got that, and then the vocals, but it just got to such level of catchiness, which obviously was a major element in choruses in new metal, to have some type of catchy chorus and then heavier, bouncier rhythm bits or mid-late, that type of thing. But
it would have been a lot of people's first experiences of having two vocalists in a band as well.
Yeah, that's sometimes referred to as good cop, bad cop, I believe, funnily enough.
Yeah.
In normally the references when someone's a clean singer and the other one's a screamer.
Yeah.
Rap, but in this case, one was rapping or doing more rap or metal scat, whatever you want to call it, and then the other person was doing the melodic stuff. But obviously that that was again iconic. Again, a genre starter as well, or definitely a tone setter for the genre.
Yeah.
But it's just such a catchy song, and it's just brilliant. It really is. Again, I haven't heard this album or this song in many, many years, but it's one of those albums I probably don't need to listen to on a regular basis. It's like I've only ever seen the 3 Lord of the Rings films once. I don't need to see them again because I thought they were flawless.
Yeah.
In regards to my experience watching them, I don't need to see them again because I've got that memory.
Yeah.
So I just like to keep the memory of it, and again the time and place of myself as a teen, listening to it all those years ago. So there's the nostalgia thing behind the song is a major one for me. So my number 6 is Linkin Park's Paper Cut from the 2000 album, not 2001, 2000 album, Hybrid Theory.
That's it. Lovely. Okay, so on to my number 6. And for my number 6, I have chosen Alice in Hell by Annihilator from the album Alice in Hell. Sorry.
Nice.
So the song is called Alice in Hell. The album is called Alice in Hell.
Very confusing.
And so this is actually track 2 on the album. The first track is an instrumental called Crystalline, which is it's brilliant, by the way. If you want to talk instrumentals, like it's I guess you could call it, it's like a dual acoustic guitar flamenco styled opening, and it's about 3 minutes long, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But then it kind of trails off, and then Alice in Hell kicks in, and again this one's this one's kind of got a build up. It kind of starts with just the guitars kind of coming in and then kind of stopping and then coming in again and stopping, and then the kind of guitar kicks in, and then it kind of the pace is picked up from there. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic song. It's another one that shows Jeff Waters his brilliance on as a lead guitarist is absolutely incredible. There's lots of little technical bits in the song. But yeah, again, and this is their debut album as well, actually, Alice in Hell. So again, as a debut song on their debut album, it's fantastic. It's difficult to describe if you haven't heard it. It's one of those that you need to listen to it to understand its technical brilliance. It's not wanky. That's the thing. It's not like it's not wanky or anything, but it is technically brilliant, and it sets a tone, and it does what it needs to do perfectly. But yeah, it came out in
89, was it?
Yeah, it might be
88, 89.
Yeah, something like that. But it's a fantastic album anyway. But that song Alice in Hell is absolutely, it's incredible, absolutely incredible. So yeah,
come on again. Annihilator, another band on my list. I need to just again, this list of ours keeps getting bigger, Papa Ben. Just finding the time.
Not enough time in the day.
There's no enough time in the day, but I've heard that album. It's a cracking album, and I will get the just a bit more of the back catalogue to listen to. Right then. So then, Papa Ben, we've made it now to our final 5 songs in our episode on top 10 best opening tracks from metal albums. So yeah, we've made it.
Squeaky bum time.
Squeaky bum time. Like I says, so far, we've had one song that's matched, which is obviously our number 7, which is Anthrax's Death Rider from the debut album Fistful of Metal. But so far, just one similarity. Due to the law of probability, I don't think there's probably we're going to have any more, but especially when it gets to the top, if we are doing it like, from first favorite, second favorite, your taste and mine sort of growing up is slightly different with some similarities with some bands. But anyway, let's crack on, man. So my number 5 is a band. It's by a band I've accidentally seen loads of times because they are either the support band for someone even bigger, or it's been on a bill of 5 or 6 metal bands. I don't know if you remember in the mid 2000s, 2005, 2006 in Cardiff in the Motorpoint Arena, the CIA as it was called back then. There was a gig called the Unholy Alliance Tour, and then the Black Crusade. A lot of those gigs are happening, and anyway, tell you the band is. But this opening track is from I can't remember what number album this is, but from an album called Through the Ashes of Empires, and I have chosen for my number 5 Machine Head's Imperium.
Oh yeah.
Which basically, because it's just a great example of, I think, why I like Fight Fire with Fire by Metallica so much. It's just that Calm Before the Storm intro, sort of similar ish to The Exorcist by Possessed, even though there's a tone of sinisterness. Plus, because people got the association that is associated with The Exorcist, they associate with something negative and scary and evil. But Imperium's got that acoustic intro. It's not. You can't tell by those very few acoustic notes what's coming next. You really can't. So when that first bum bum kicks in, you think, wow, where did that come from? And and again the chugs, and then the Hear Me Now by Rob Flynn with his vocal cords when it kicks in, it's great. And this song, I don't know, it's got one of my favorite middle eights or breakdowns in metal history. It's got this really great amazing palm mute to chug riff halfway sort of towards the end of the song, where then it reintroduces you to the chorus for the final time before it goes out, sort of fades out, and then it redoes the intro again, electric rather than acoustic. So I just think it's such a well crafted song, and it's a great example of definitely Machine Head's a return to form, because I think they had a few considered weakish albums around that time. I think people slate. Is it the album? Is it Crashing Around You? Was that just a song? Or was that an album?
It doesn't ring any bells to me.
Yeah, well, I can't remember. But Machine Head released an album which was like what Slayer did, sort of bordering on the new metal.
Yeah.
Thing. I'll just double check now, just so I don't want to give incorrect information about since we're talking about. Let's have a look. Machine Head discography. So, what do we have? The Burning Red. Is that right? Is this in the right order? That's Supercharger. That's what I was trying to think of. That's it, Supercharger.
Okay.
So they had an album called Supercharger, which was released in 2001. Again, it was in when new metal was hitting out, and a lot of people sort of slate them going a bit new metal rather than away from their sort of the roots which they were going to. So 2 years later, Through the Ashes of Empires, this was sort of, I think, the return to form. So it's people ranking Machine Head albums. Through the Ashes of Empires is around it's normally on the halfway mark because they're not really. I don't think they've ever released a bad album at all. I actually liked listening to Supercharger in preparation for our 2001 Rock Perspective episodes, and I thought it was pretty cool. It was very groovy.
Yeah.
But just Imperium, I think, is such a well crafted metal song and Machine Head song. Structurally, melodically, the sound of his vocal cords is great guitar work.
Yeah, it's one of their classic songs, isn't it?
It is, and I think I've probably seen them 5 or 6 times, again by accident. I'm sure they supported Metallica the first time I ever saw Metallica in Birmingham. Birmingham Arena, was it NEC Arena 2008? Same time the same year Metallica released Death Magnetic, and I've seen Michelle loads of times. I've seen him Carl Students Union. I didn't see much of the gig, so I had to break up my best mate having a fight with another bloke. So I got a ticket. I didn't actually remember the gig very much at all. But it's a great song to open a show with as well.
Yeah.
Just because of that, the Calm Before the Storm, the acoustic intro, then it goes full in. So I've got a bit much on that description really, but it's just I've always considered very much like how I remember Disciple by Slayer.
Yeah,
it's just one of those that's always sticked out in my mind as just a brilliant opener. And again, like Slayer's Disciple on that album, it's like a return to form type of thing. So my number 5 is Imperium by Machine Head by 2003's Through Ashes of Empires.
Lovely. So we're on to my number 5, and I got to be honest, the top 5 I've swapped around a few times in my head.
Okay.
So my number 5, I'm going with People Equal Shit by Slipknot.
I forgot about that song.
Off their 2001 album, Iowa. It's just fucking nuts, isn't it? It's just dun 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 dun, and then he just kicks in with the scream, and it's just nuts. Like it just kicks in, and you've got drums that side, you've got drums that side, you've got percussion over there somewhere, you've got guitars up. It's just nuts, and I think it's the song they open a lot of their gigs with, which you can totally understand why. It's just
yes.
Again, it's a statement.
It's
song.
like an eruption.
Oh yeah.
It's just an eruption of anger, emotion. Yeah, and just emotion. It's
beautifully. It's beautiful in its own way. Do you know what I mean? It's beautifully.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's gorgeous in its own way. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's brutal. I mean, if you want to, your starting song really needs to set the tone of your album. Really.
Yes.
You don't want to, because there's some albums I think I've listened to, especially during the Rock Perspectives, where they might have a strong opening and then literally the next song it just takes and that's not what you want.
Cliff dive.
You just don't want that. This is a statement, but this really does, like, if you needed to, I mean, it's personal taste, but if you needed to encapsulate the feel of Iowa in one song, it's probably this song for me, at least. Anyway.
Yeah, man. That's a hell of a statement, because there's some amazing songs on that album. So many good songs.
Yeah.
They're not songs; they're anthems. They're absolute anthems on that. My Plague, Left Behind, Crikey Moses. So there's plenty more as well. Yeah. Just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But man, that's hell of a statement. I find it difficult not to agree with you, really. But in regards to energy and going for, when you put on an album, you go from pure silence to that.
Yeah.
How quickly it builds up to the climax.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like Eruption is a perfect way to describe that song, and it's a tone setter. It's powerful, it's emotional, it's just purely iconic, and crucially, like I said, I believe it's the song that they use to open a lot of their shows. which is just, it's just a perfect song to do that with. So yeah, so that is my number 5, is People Equal Shit by Slipknot on 2001's Iowa.
Brilliant, man. That's the thing about this list. There's so many, albums that are being released.
Yeah.
That some was completely escape you, and that I completely forgot about that one. Again, I've come quite late to the party with Slipknot. I've only really started appreciating them and really getting into them probably the past year, whilst I've been doing more metal listening. Especially the newest album, We Are Not Your Kind. I've been doing a lot of like working out and gymming in my living room to that album when it first came out, and and that sort of got me hooked on to try and get into their old stuff again. But great suggestion, man. So my number 4 now, and this is actually this is an opening track of an album. You told me that it's actually become a go-to listening album for yourself, and one you've really started enjoying.
Okay.
What I like about it, again, I think the song encapsulates the band very well in regards to their attitude towards the not mythology, but the spirit of metal.
Yeah.
And how they like to be loud and in your face. And during the early 80s, this was a cool thing to do. It sort of became a bit of a parody, decades later. But I think these are my favorite potentially opening lyrics of almost any song to open an album. I'll just try. I pretty much know the lyrics. I'm just gonna. So I don't want to keep you on tenterhooks. Just so I'm saying the lyrics correctly. So basically, my number 4 is the opening for Manowar's 1984 classic Sign of the Hammer, and that song is All Men Play on 10. It's a song about, we got it, everyone else plays lower, it's a shit sound, you're playing metal music for the masses, just mass produced, but we're turning it.
Spinal Tap.
It's Spinal Tap. It's absolute Spinal Tap. But again, the charm of it during this time, again, I think we mentioned this in the 1984 rock perspective we did. Now, in the 80s, when thrash was becoming thrash metal, there were so many. Even before that, in the new wave of British heavy metal, they, I think, started this, and then thrash took it to another level. Is they're singing about the spirit of metal and singing about heavy metal. For example, that opening track of, was it Strong Arm of the Law by Saxon, Heavy Metal Thunder.
Heavy Metal Thunder.
Metal Thrashing Mad by Anthrax. There's loads of songs with metal in it, effectively. But yeah, this I think is sort of Manowar, even though they've got a song called Die for Metal, which is quite a recent one. Yeah. Brilliant lyrics. They can't stop us, let them try. For heavy metal, we will die louder than hell. That's them when they got a bit cheesier. But so All Men Play on 10 opens with, I made a rock and roll sin when I tried giving in. To make money, had to turn down low. They said, why be proud? Don't play so loud. Be like us and get a sound that's real thin. Wear a polyester suit, act happy, look cute, get a haircut and buy small gear. That's when I turned to them and said, hold it right there. It's just a spirit of it. It's almost like it's got a bit of a rap to it. Eric Adams, the singer, is singing, but it's almost like a metal rap. Yeah. Which is an amazing way just to bring the singer and the sound of the singer into an album to introduce them. I just think the song is amazing.
It's almost like a poem, isn't it? He's reciting.
Yeah, it very much is. Yeah, it's very much like reciting.
A limerick.
Absolutely. No, it's got this like a measure to it sometimes. The way I think about it, but. It just encapsulates that era, that year, 1984, so well for me. I'm, a lot of that album, it's based on Norse mythology.
Yes.
So Thor,
the Powerhead,
the Powerhead, Sign of the Hammer itself, the Oath. Even Guyana Cult of the Damned, Pastor Jim Jones rather than Norse mythology.
I can almost guarantee you when we do the top 10 closing songs of an album, it's probably going to be. It's probably going to be.
That's probably going to be on it. Yeah,
I'm going to find it difficult. I absolutely love
Guyana. Yeah, it's brilliant. The bass, you probably love it for the bass as well. But it's odd. The song it actually stands out a little bit from the rest of the album, because it actually doesn't follow in that sort of folky mythology or godlike mythology of the rest of the album. The next track then is quite an aggressive-ish, punkier track called Animals. That's a bit punkier, but yeah, the first two tracks, they're almost like slightly different to the rest of the album, but as an opening, the riff it's a great riff. It doesn't start like very fast. It's a it's almost like it's almost doom. It's got this doomy flavor to it, but it is power metal. It's pure power metal, but yeah, it's just again the groove, the feel to it. It just encapsulates 1984 so well, and so that's why my number 4 is "All Men Play on 10" by Manowar from the 1984 Sign of the Hammer album. And for once, I'm not wearing the Sign of the Hammer T-shirt, which I normally do for most podcast episodes which we film. But so that's my number 4.
Lovely. Okay, this is where it's actually getting quite difficult. So. Potentially, I say controversial. For you, it might be a bit. When I get to the top, maybe 3, it could get a little controversial.
Okay,
but it sparks discussion, I suppose. But so I'm gonna. Okay, so I'm gonna say my number 4 is a song from it's a band that we've recently discovered, and we've kind of fallen in love with them through this album. And it is, you'll know where I'm going with this almost straight away when I say this. It's the, like, you want thrash personified. This is how you do it. And my number 4 is "Thrash Till Death" by Destruction. It is.
You did it. You only gone and done it.
Honestly, it is just like, it's the second track on the album. That first one is like a 40-second thing, but
ambience,
then it's like ambience. I think there's some talking, and then it kicks this in, and it's just like dun 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 dun, and it's just like, it is thrash personified. It's just and again, the thing I love about this song, this album, this song especially, because if you're taking into consideration when you listen to an album, the first song in the album is again the tone setter.
Yes, absolutely.
This came out in 2001. So
just stop me there, Ben, just in case you've not said the name of the band yet, just in case anyone's wondering who you're talking about.
The band is called Destruction, just in case I didn't mention. Thrash Till Death.
Amazing German thrash metal.
One of the German, the Teutonic Four?
Teutonic Four, yeah, along with Creator, Sodom, and the fourth one. Sorry, I should know this, but I can't remember. There's another one. But yeah, so the 2001 album. Yeah, Tankard. Thank you very much.
Yes. So the thing that makes this song extra special, this album came out in 2001. This was the year essentially that, well, maybe the year before, it's arguable with Hybrid Theory, but 2001, we were right on the crest of nu metal. Thrash was, you had thrash bands starting to, like we talked about with Slayer, you have thrash bands trying to do the nu metal thing, because it was the, like, thrash. I don't like saying thrash was dead, but those kind of words get thrown around this kind of time of period. Thrash essentially in the kind of the popular culture of metal, I suppose, was kind of dead. Hence why these thrash bands were trying to do more and more kind of nu metal-y, mainstreamy type of sounding things to try and keep up with the curve, I suppose. So if you consider all that, and you bought this album, you think, oh, I wonder what Destruction are going to do. You've heard a few, you've heard a lot of albums from 2001. It's very nu metal heavy, and you're thinking, oh, Destruction, okay, we've seen other thrash bands try and do some nu metal. Let's see what they do. And you think, you probably see the song called "Thrash Till Death," and you think, oh, okay. And then you listen to it, and basically what Destruction, I would love to be a fly on the wall on that meeting, because I'm pretty sure when they sat down to write this album, they were like, right, so the in thing to do is to play nu metal. That's what everyone's doing. shall we do that? And I just imagine somebody gets like a brick thrown at them or something for even suggesting it, and they're like, no,
Rock 9.
yeah, what we're going to do is dial up the thrash. Which I just, it's the most like, 2001, right on the crest of new metal's popularity and destruction, and thrash essentially is dead by this point. Destruction turn around and go, you know what, let's make the thrashiest album ever. And honestly, I think if we were to do the top 10 thrashiest albums ever, this is easily probably top 5. It's sheer thrash. So if you take into consideration the time this came out as well, and it's just sheer defiance, isn't it? Like,
it's a big fuck you to to new metal, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's incredible.
And a trend.
Yeah, and even the song name "Thrash Till Death," that they're making a statement right there. They're just saying, "Nope, we're going. Nope. We are going down swinging, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we're going to make your ears bleed doing it. It's incredible. It's an incredible song, and so taking everything into consideration, I think both me and you have fallen in love with the album and the band as a result of it.
Oh yes, so. Yeah. But yeah, as an opening track as well, it is a statement. I said to you before that this song feels like it sort of feels like it could potentially be the single, because as thrashy as it sounds, it's actually, I think, just a tiny bit more radio friendly than the rest of the album. It's still intense and boom, and it does everything it needs to do and more for thrash metal. But then it goes up a notch again. Track 2 onwards, and
Bullets from Hell, I think Nailed to the Cross.
Oh yeah, nailed to that. Oh, Nailed to the Cross and Bullets from Hell are some of the best thrash songs I've heard. I mean, I'm not an expert. I say I'm not an expert on thrash. I love thrash metal. I've got so much more listening to do of thrash metal music, and I know I'm going to discover more albums which I'm going to love, just like the album "The Antichrist" by Destruction from the album from the year 2001. But currently, that's just like blown me away as of late, and we do a lot of listening for these type of shows, and I find myself sometimes I'm about to, like today, I was about to do a journey in the car. I said, I need to listen to a new album every time I go somewhere, and I'm like, no, I want to listen to the Antichrist. my other self is on my shoulders, like, no, listen to the Antichrist again. You love it. You want to. But I find it difficult not to go back to it on a regular basis and listen to it. But I don't want to listen the hell out of it. But I'm jealous now that you've written that down. It's almost made my list, but it's not. I tell you, it's not on my top 10. But that's that is a fantastic song, and anyone's listening to those listening now. But get inspired, hopefully everything we've said so far has inspired you to listen to a song you might have not heard of before, and specifically that band and even that particular album where that is the opening song for. But for God's sakes, listen to the Antichrist. It's brilliant.
It's ironic you say it that way, is it? For God's sake, listen to the Antichrist.
I wrote that in my notes, which I don't have in front of me. Oh, brilliant. Anyway, dude, that was just a fantastic one. Anyway, so moving on.
Top 3.
We're now on the top 3.
Podium finishes.
Gold, silver, and bronze. Now, the reason I love this song, this is a seasoned band having a comeback, and what a comeback! Basically, they've been reunited with their famous lead singer for the first time in between 13 and 15 years. I was at a gig to see him in 2005, just after they released this album, and I was in the front row, and they opened their set with this song. And this was the day, if you're into rugby, this was the day Wales won the 2005 Grand Slam in the Six Nations. I was in line in Birmingham, NEC, with my mates to go watch the support act being the Scorpions, but the headline band were Judas Priest. And Judas Priest in 2005 released a comeback album called Angel of Retribution, where it was the first time Rob Halford had starred on a Linkin Park. That'd be funny. A Judas Priest album since the year 1990, which again is an iconic album. Painkiller, of course. Another cracking intro. But the first song is called Judas Rising. as a tight as this is probably my favorite track title to call a song ever out of all of the things I've got on this list, because it was the greatest statement I'd ever seen on the greatest day of my life. I was front row seeing Rob Halford reunited, and it was the first time I'd ever seen Priest for obvious reasons. First time I'd seen Judas Priest, and they opened with this song. It's not a fast song. It's got a sort of a much slower, doomier feel to it, even though there are double bass pedals going in the background. But it's just to hear Rob Halford screaming the line, "Judas is rising," in this occasion, in this gig, this moment, this new album, they're back. It was just the fucking sun, the eclipse. It was like a celestial body.
It's in their hometown as well,
just like perfection. Yeah, in Birmingham, the hometown of where heavy metal started. It was just... this song, just got such an amazing affiliation with it because of the experience of watching it live, hearing it fresh to a Birmingham crowd in the first time Rob Halford had ever sung in Birmingham with Priest for 15 years. So it was a heck of an event to be at, and I was so proud to be there. And so that's Judas Rising. It's just you might not be familiar with it.
No, I'm not. I'll check it out.
The album Angel of Retribution, it's not a bad album at all. I think it's got a lot of really good songs on it. And again, Priest finding form and that old sort of Painkiller and 90s darker Priest sound model. They're going back to that, and a good part of it. It's a good album. It's got other tracks on it called Deal with the Devil, Angel of Retribution, Demonizer, cracking title for a song. But so my number 3 is a song I love. Every time I hear it, I just close my eyes. I just sort of see myself back at that gig. It just gives me goosebumps. And the intro to the main riff, it's got a double bass pedal, 2-second solo before it gets into the main riff. It's quite a slow ambient start, and then it kicks in, and then you just got a Rob Halford scream, and like, oh my God, this is he's back. They're back. So my number 3 is Judas Rising from Judas Priest's 2005 album Angel of Retribution.
Okay, cool. Right, my number 3. Okay, this is where things possibly get quite interesting. So my number 3, I'm going with, controversial possibly for you, Fight Fire with Fire by Metallica off the 1984 album Ride the Lightning. This has been at my number 1 spot for most of this, and then the more I think about it, the more I was changing it between the other 2 songs that are left. And if I boil it down, I decided to put this at number 3, but I totally understand why anybody would argue this is one of the greatest opening songs of any album ever. I mean, this, again, we've used the word statement a lot tonight. But the thing with this song is this was providing you didn't hear the single off this album, off Ride the Lightning. For all intents and purposes, if you listen to Kill 'Em All, which is an amazing album, which is their first debut album, it's obviously thrash, but it's thrash in its absolute infancy, and that whole album is about them going balls to the wall, essentially. Let's just, and maybe that comes down to what Dave wrote for a lot of that album, but either way, it's very balls to the wall, it's very raw, it's thrash in its absolute infancy. This song comes along as the opening of Ride the Lightning, and this immediately sets the tone, and this isn't uncontrollable. This is Metallica that have tamed thrash. They've tamed what they did in Kill 'Em All, and they've added musicianship on top of it. The opening,
Yeah.
do you see what I mean? It's like it's
It's
anybody.
it's yeah.
I not to sound like I'm throwing shade at Kerry King, because he's made a career, he's made a career that I'm never going to be able to match of anything I ever do off it. But anybody can pick up a guitar. Anyone who knows how to play a guitar can pick it up and just wank all over it. Do you know what I mean? And with enough distortion and enough noise coming, enough processing, you can make it sound okay. Tom Morello does it in a good way, but look at the way he plays. He does all sorts of crazy stuff. Tom Morello being the guitarist for Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave. He takes the jack out and he's like hitting the jack with it. He does all sorts of stuff, but it just goes to show that with enough processing and enough wizardry, you can make anything sound good, which is great. But then you've got to put musicianship onto it. And kind of that's where I feel like Metallica have done, is that they got it out their system with Kill 'Em All, and then they come back with the second album, and this is the first song of the album, and it's measured. There's that musicianship. They've tamed the beast that is thrash, essentially, and it's just what an opening. They start off with again, we talk about setting a tone, setting that kind of atmosphere. It's very, very it's a very unassuming opening. And then it kind of builds up, and you've got the cymbals kind of building up, and it's like getting louder and louder, and then it just boom, then it just goes, and then it's kind of like it's just like unleash a torrent of like thrash. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're holding it back, and then all of a sudden it just goes, and
open the floodgates.
That's it, the floodgates. So floodgates open, and it's just absolutely, it blows you away. But
Absolutely,
it's
man.
the level of musicianship that comes with that as well.
People ask me when people ask me a very difficult question, which is your favorite Metallica song or songs, my top three probably change quite often. Depends maybe what I've heard recently. Oh, I forgot I really like that song. But generally, this one is always in my top three. It's probably the only one that doesn't move. So for that reason,
that's similar for me, but with Creeping Death.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Also on this cracking album. But the guitar sound of this album, it's just got such a heavy feel to it, especially in 1984. But again, just with that alternate picking and that heavy sound combined, just after that sort of calm intro, after again when the cymbals sort of just as a crescendo. But it's Statement is great. But yeah, you're right. You can't argue with that. It's such a brilliant opening track, and it's why Ride the Lightning is no secret. I said before, it's literally my favorite album of any genre ever ever. So and definitely that's largely to do with the opening track.
I would argue that, from a personal perspective anyway, I would argue that Ride the Lightning, for me anyway, I think Ride the Lightning is a better album than Master of Puppets, personally. But I Master of Puppets is an amazing album, but I really think that, I mean, to coin a phrase which is quite suited for this, is they really captured that lightning in a bottle for this album.
Nicely done. Nice punning there.
They really did. I think, and you can only do that once. Do you know what I mean? And yes, Master Master of Puppets is a masterpiece. There's no, it's a work of art. But it's potentially, if I'm to be super critical about that particular album, you could potentially say, compared to Ride the Lightning, and I'm not saying in general, but if you compare it to Ride the Lightning, it's a little too clinical. There's a little too much,
or polished. Is that a word that gets used sometimes?
Polished, where Ride the Lightning is right on the teeter of that unbridled, uncontrollable thrash sound,
Do you know?
While
Yeah,
just staying, just keeping it on the line of not being wanky all over the place.
Yeah. Do you know, that is probably why one of the reasons why I like the album so much, because if you just look at it in the evolution of Metallica in the 80s, it's wedged perfectly between raw as fuck teenagers jamming in their garage to the polished musicianship of Master of Puppets, and it's a brilliant bridge between the both. And that's why I've always liked the sweet spot. I was getting to that saying. It is the sweet spot. This is very controversial. It's probably less. I always used to think that Ride the Lightning as an album was probably one of the earliest influences to give us what is now melodic death metal. And that's could be a completely stupid thing to say. But what Ride the Lightning does, which Kill 'Em All doesn't have, it's the mix of heavy and melodic.
Yeah. Fade to Black sense? Is perfect example of that.
Fade to Black, Call of Cthulhu is the greatest example I can think of. You know, the fact there's no words on it doesn't make a difference. But even Creeping Death, but Call of Cthulhu specifically, it really is. It shows you can do heavy and melodic. It doesn't have to be just dissonant notes. It can be both. So it might sound like a stupid statement, but again, it's the mix of heavy and melodic, which that song. If I got some melodic bits to it, but generally just a full-on thrash song. Yeah, we could talk about anything from Ride the Lightning all night long. I know that we have before. So that's your number 3.
It is. That is my number.
Cracking.
3.
That is a great fantastic number 3. Anyway, getting even to squeakier bum time now. For my number 2, I was just trying to remember this. So I was into this band. This is from this band's 3rd album. And I've been into them very much since. This song is by far their most famous song. So it might be people might think, it's a bit of a safe, not very interesting track I'm listing here. But what I remember hearing it is, for the first time, is the sound, the wall of sound. Maybe some bands might have had this wall of sound in the year 2006 when this album was released. So I think this is my entire list. This is the song that's actually the most modern 2006, even that's 17 years ago. But I remember getting a hold of this album 6 months before it was released. A friend of mine ripped albums for friends, and I told him I was into this band, and he gave me this album. He said, it's not released yet. And I was listening to this album 6 months before it was released. I didn't give it to anyone, but I just played it over and over again. And mainly that first song, because of the wall of sound atmosphere, which you get, and the power and the catchy melodies which come with it, and its big choruses. So I'm not going to bullshit anymore, but my number 2 is from the album Inhuman Rampage. It is Dragon Force's Through the Fire and the Flames, which is, of course, very famously synonymous with Guitar Hero. But I just think, again, it's just got that it's very different. It's got a Hispanic guitar intro, which actually played by the keyboards rather than a guitar. I think so. Live anyway. I'm not sure about on the record, but it sort of does a bit of a shred, and then it goes into full on extreme power metal with this big sort of almost like sometimes a bit choral string like atmosphere. And the song just keeps going up and up and up and up in ante. The verse is catchy, and then you got the pre-chorus. It sort of goes to a major key, and then it bigs up the chorus, which starts on not a root note, but an 8th chord, which is a great chord to start on, as opposed to the root chord for those into music theory. But it's I don't know what else to say about it. it's a song that's so famous now. People know about it. I think the song is about 7 minutes long. 7 minutes 12 or something like that. But most people know this track from like a 4-minute version or 5-minute version because it's sort of been knuckled down. So I don't know if you've seen that. I'm sure you've seen that YouTube duo, Two Rocking Grannies on YouTube. Yeah. Brilliant. They have a reaction to Dragon Forces Through the Fire and the Flames. And my reaction was actually not too dissimilar to those, to be honest. But they listened to the shorter version. But the long version is great. And the guitar sound is fantastic. It is. It really is. Again, I wouldn't say I'd say for the time, there's plenty of really good stuff like that around in 2006. But Dragon Force is no secret, one of my favorite bands, probably because my relationship with that one song when I first heard it. But it was it wasn't the monster step up from the album before, but it had a lot more synth on it, and atmosphere brought by the keyboards and in the studio than the album before. And it just really, again, it is a great tone setter. The next song, again, goes even up in more ante than this one in regards to rhythmic and percussive. But yeah, it's so my number 2, Dragon Force, is Through the Fire and the Flames, from their 2006 album Inhuman Rampage. And I won't say the name of my friend who gave me the album 6 months in advance, just in case he gets arrested for copyright infringement.
Dear me.
Thank you, G. Cheers, man.
Okay, so number 2. Okay, so my number 2 is for Hugh. Is probably no massive surprise for anyone who's watched our 1990 Rockerspective. Not a massive surprise.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, this song is, I mean, it's just music. Like as a piece of music, it's almost perfect. If a piece of music could also almost be perfect, the fact that it's the first song on the album is just it's almost like the like you were talking about with Through the Fire and the Flames. It's such a mad song to have as your first one, and this song is exactly the same, and that's Holy Wars by Megadeth off the 1990 album Rust in Peace. This song, like, it possibly one of the most iconic openings to a song. It is one of the most iconic songs, openings of a song, never mind of an album. And yeah, if talk about up in the ante in that, again, you got that intro, which is just guitars, and then it just kind of builds up, and then the drums kick in, and then it just boom, just like it's like winding up like a wind up toy, and you put it on the floor, and it just boom, it's gone at like 1,000 miles an hour in the other direction. It's just like it, and the whole song, it twists, it turns. If you've never listened to it before, it's a journey. The whole song is a journey. Do you know what I mean? It really does take you. It's one of those, as soon as it starts, you kind of stand up and, I want to listen to this, and kind of catches you. And then, you're just along for the ride, and there's so many twists and turns in it. As a written piece of music, it is almost perfect. I can't really say too much about it because it's so iconic. It's so, if you haven't heard it, just go on YouTube, go wherever, go on Spotify, and just type Holy Wars, The Punishment Due by Megadeth, and it'll come up. And it's just, how do you describe greatness? Because that's, it is one of their greatest songs.
It is, man. And we've mentioned this in the 1990 Rockerspective. The sound recording and mix on that album is incredible. As
it was next level.
Crisply clean. What all the instruments are doing, and again, the guitar sound is great. But again, when the the bass and guitars double up, or just do something slightly different. There's some fills. Again, we've made mention about Dave Ellison's bass sound. Again, it sounds almost between. It's good enough to be a funk sound.
It is. It really is.
It works bassy enough where you could do a ballad, but then twangy enough to do metal. It's almost like in that middle, like thumpy type of sound. So yeah, his sound, just his sound alone as a bass guitarist is brilliant on that album. As is, Dave's and Marty's the guitarist. Is it Marty? Yeah.
Yeah. The mad thing about this song as well is it's the opening track for Rust in Peace, which is probably their most iconic album. But this is the song that they tend to end shows on, which if you the speed of this song, it's high energy, it's super, it's aggressive, it just goes for it. So if you take that into consideration, imagine playing, like, from a musician's perspective, imagine playing an hour and a half set and then having to end it on this song. Do you know what I mean? It's like the amount of energy that this song puts out.
Yeah.
And you're knackered after, after the hour and a half, whatever it is that you've done. You've got to end this. And because it's such an iconic song, you can't screw this song up. You screw this up and the crowd will not be happy. You've really got to bring your A game for this song every time. And yeah, I bet you this song at some point down the road, it's kicked their ass at one point or another, I'm sure, where they've just had maybe a hard gig or one of them hasn't been feeling it and they've got to bring their A game for that song. So I can imagine there's a few times they probably cussed this song out, just at the end of the gig.
I've not realized until now, you mentioned that point. It's almost like a way of one-upping Metallica, because they only ever finish with Seek and Destroy, which is generally quite an easy, one of the easier Metallica songs to play.
And then they bring this out.
Yeah. And then they bring this out, absolutely. So yeah, it's a good good way, for good rivalry, or just to make a statement, not to open an album, but to close the show in this case. But again, the song, there's not much more we can say about it. It's literally it's very much a self-explanatory thing, as is the entire album. You just got to listen to it to understand what you're listening to, and then you'll get it. It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's your number 2. We've made it to the end. We have got to unveil now our arguably favorite. I've got a very controversial number 1.
I possibly do. I've got a very left field number 1.
Left field, okay. I don't know what field I'm in. I think I'm in the field behind the second field behind the one on the left. This song and potentially this album is nowhere near any list of iconic albums at all, anywhere.
Okay. That's a great start.
Even for this band, it's nowhere near. But
this song,
this was the first album I had ever heard by this band, and this album got me hooked on rock and metal.
Okay.
I remember growing up, the first album I ever bought, I'm going to give you a proper confession now. In 2000, everyone in my class was listening to Eminem. And I thought, I got to be able to know what everyone's singing about. So I listened to Eminem, and I still like Eminem, and specifically his second album, Marshall Mathers LP. I really still like it. And I bought it in Woolworths, and it was a buy one, get one free. And I literally didn't know any of the bands or artists. I had no idea. I'd never heard of any, because I was not into music at all. And then I randomly picked up a Savage Garden album, which I like all music. And, that Savage Garden album is actually definitely my top 50 albums of all time. It's a very good album. I can't remember what it's called now. Affirmation. It's a very good album. Anyway, moving on. So I was listening to a bit of rap and occasionally Savage Garden, very random. And then the next thing I got into, because all the other people in school were, was Linkin Park. So that was the next thing. And probably Limp Bizkit. So it was that. Those were the only 2 bands I was really listening to now and again. So I had Chocolate Starfish and Hot Dog Flavored Water by Limp Bizkit, and then Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. Then one day, my dad came home from the pub and they were emptying out the jukebox.
Okay.
And they gave my dad 3 random albums, or he picked 3 albums out, or 2 albums. So one of them was a very lesser known AC/DC album called Ball Breaker, which again is actually probably my top 20, again, because the impact this album and the other one had on me. But this first song, the sound I heard, the heavy rock type of metal sound I heard, it just fucking blew me away. And it was very much like probably people listening to Master of Puppets potentially in the day. Of listen to Battery over and over and over again as a first song, potentially because of this sound. So this song isn't really famous. It's sometimes not even, it's I won't say it's rarely in this band set, but it's made it on some DVDs and stuff. But this song got me to get into rock and heavy metal music. And if I hadn't have done that, nothing I would have achieved in my life right now potentially wouldn't have happened, because this then got me wanted to do musical theatre singing. It got me wanting to go to university just by literally listening to the song. I wanted to commit my life to music because I was air guitaring in my room to this song every day for fucking weeks and weeks and months. So I'm not going to keep you in anticipation, because I'm wondering if you can guess who it is. You probably won't. So my number one and my favorite opening song of any album of all time is Ain't My Bitch by Metallica from the album Load.
Yeah.
And I don't need to say anything else. It's just out of my way, out of my day, out of your mind and into me. It's just dirty. It's just in your face. It's just fun. It's catchy. It's groovy. It just... It for me, obviously, this was now, they gone, what you call, some people said they've reached a big time with Black Album, and they did really well going years afterwards with live shows, etc. So this was 1996, 5 entire years after the Black Album, or Metallica, whatever you want to call it. So it was a very much... it was going towards the more radio-friendly heavy rock again, or butt metal, or whatever you want to call it, or trucker metal. But as an album, Load is a brilliant album just by itself, if you're not comparing it to Metallica's 80s stuff. Just saying it. It's as an album, I think it's great. I love the sound. It takes me back so much to my nostalgia of listening to it for the first time. But I just... Ain't My Bitch. It's just such a fun... song, and if this song didn't exist and I hadn't listened to it that day when my dad might have bought something else, but this song somehow had a connection with me, and I was just in my room pretending I was Kirk Hammett. I had a snooker cue in my room in a pack, and I was using a snooker cue holder, a case, sorry, that's what I was looking for, pretend I was playing Ain't My Bitch, just for and then my best mate said, get a bass guitar, get a bass, we could start a band. So we could play this stuff? Hell yes. Never played anything off Load. I think I learned the Until It Sleeps riff once, I think so, on bass, but I didn't really learn much else. But yeah, man. So, I could talk. There's not a huge lot I can say. Again, this is purely just personal for me. So a lot of people might think, oh, I don't know, I've squandered the opportunity to put a much better track. I could have put Angel of Death from Raining Blood. I could have put... I'm not going to say too much more because I might be jinxing your number ones. I'm not going to say anything else. But this song is purely personal for me and what it did for me, and that's it. For most people, it's not even a thought. But for me, it's awesome. So my number one, my favorite opening track of an album of all time is currently, because I'm probably going to do another list. We'll do another list in the future. It is Metallica's Ain't My Bitch, track 1 from their 1996 album, Load.
Lovely. Well, thank you for the personal story as well.
It's okay, man.
It's
a cleaner one.
Yeah. Okay, so my number one, I don't have quite the level of kind of personal connection to it, although it's funny that you talk about when starting off kind of your musical journey, I suppose, or where listening to that song got you. This song wasn't the very first heavy metal song I listened to, but this was definitely the first heavy metal band I heard, like that I found, like I heard just by going on like internet radio, like your, what's it called? Is it called Pandora or something like that?
Yeah, I used to use
It
that
was
years ago.
before. I mean, it was before that. It was AOL's, like
Oh, I saw that.
AOL Music. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like super, like before Pandora and everything. Anyway, so I kind of found some song. I found music through that. I found Slipknot through that, funnily enough. So yeah, after listening to Slipknot, 3 Days Grace, I think, was another band that was on this, like this Pandora's like jukebox type thing that AOL had. Yeah, there was a few things. Anyway, so I started kind of looking for other things that's like Slipknot, and somebody said to me when I was, because I kind of, how old would I have been? I would have been in primary school still, so I would have been year 6, which is the last year before you go to high school.
Yes.
So I would have been 10, 11, something like that. And I had a friend who was a mosher, and I had a friend who was a townie. This was back before emos existed.
Townie, you haven't heard that word in a long time.
This was
the word before. It was the word before chav, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was way before chav. It was before emos. You had the moshers, which were the skaters essentially.
Yeah.
The townies, which are like funny enough, Eminem. You know, I mean, we're talking.
Yeah.
This would have been the year probably about 2000, actually, something like that. Yeah, something around that kind of time. So 2000, 2001, something like that. Anyway, yeah. So my mosher friend said, "Oh, you need to go listen to Korn."
Oh,
I'd heard about Korn, but being the 11-year-old that I was, I heard rumors that this was like a devil worshipping band. This is a super scary band. Like, you only listen to this stuff if you're
really
ready for
it.
Yeah. This is the big time. This is the heavy stuff. Little did I know bands like Cannibal Corpse existed. You know, with like I Come Blood and stuff like that. You know,
an obituary and
yeah. But yeah, so you know, for an 11-year-old, Korn, oh god, yeah, it genuinely, the idea of actually listening to Korn was quite intimidating. I was before I found them and started listening to them, I was a bit intimidated. I was like, what if my grandparents catch me? Are they going to tell me off for listening to, like, do you know what I mean? It's like, you just, I don't know.
Yeah. When you're that young, it's, you know, your world is so small. You think this is a breaking the law, or
I almost felt like I was breaking rules. Yeah. It was, this isn't meant to be a pun, but searching for Korn was almost like searching for porn. Do you know what I mean? I thought if you get caught, if I get caught, I thought I was gonna be punished in the same manner. You know, what are you doing? You shouldn't be on that. You know?
Yeah. Get off.
I don't think anyone has. I don't know if anyone has made that association before in the past, but they have now anyway.
No.
Anyway, so
porn.
So yeah, so I listened to a song, and it was So I was like, so I looked for the album, and so this song was when we talk about setting tone and atmosphere and like really, like if we're talking about a band that did something different, really, like, do you know what I mean? Completely, nobody, like, Korn are their own beast. No one sounds like them. You can't really pigeonhole them.
No.
Okay, so I'll get to the point. So my number one is the first song off their debut album, which is self-titled. The song is called Blind. Yes, by Korn. 98. Oh, it might even be. Oh God, Google time.
I think it was early. Oh, you can Google it. You can have the honor. I think it was a bit earlier. I could be wrong.
Let's have a look.
But
when was this released? Let's have a look. See, it was released in 94. Right. God. So I actually forgot.
It's even more mind blowing that it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we take into consideration that, so if we take into consideration that this came out in '94, and the first song on that album, Blind, like you talk about setting a tone, setting a precedent, setting an atmosphere. Korn does it like no band can. Korn sets atmospheres like no band can, and it's that. It was. I mean, this album is raw, but it's one of the most incredible albums. It really is one of the. It's one of the most incredible albums that has ever existed. I really do think that it's one for the history books. And this, and if you can imagine. So taking into consideration '94, no one had ever heard something like this. You put the first song on, and it's a good like 30 seconds of just the drums just going, and then just the guitar like wagga wagga, and then comes back out, and then every song you've got a little bit of bass, boom 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 boom, and then this goes on for like 30 seconds, and you could and I remember listening to this the first time. It was probably about the year 2000, something like that, and I was just waiting for that build up, and then all you hear is like, "Are you ready?" Boom, 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 and it's just like, whoa! It just blows you away. It absolutely blows you away. As I said, no band can set an atmosphere like Korn can, especially that early album. So taking into consideration this would have been '94 as well. Can you this was the equivalent for me? I guess I can see it as this is like the equivalent of the first of like Possessed releasing their first album.
or even Venom's first album. It really is a whoa, what the hell?
Yeah,
it's a massive it's a huge leap forward for the genre, massive, isn't it? Really
massive.
It's noticeable.
So as you can imagine, 11-year-old me listening to this, my first actual song I heard from them was Clown, which is off that album.
Okay, yeah,
love that song. But so when I searched for the album, and I'll put it on, and Blind for 30 seconds, there's that just was it the hi-hat or something that's been kind of not much is going on, and all of a sudden, "Are you ready?" And it just explodes. It just explodes out the gates. Then it's incredible. And then as quick as it's exploded, it immediately simmers down into this real sinister. It's deep. It's sinister. It's the pace has slowed down again. It's real bass heavy, which again probably influenced me heavily into heading towards playing bass. And it just real low, real heavy, real just kind of and then all of a sudden, then when he starts saying like what's the lyric? I'm so blind.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
I am so blind. Yeah.
And then the pace kicks off, and then it boom, all comes back down again. It's like, it really is something else. The album is something else. This song, it's an incredible song. It's one of the most incredible albums I think has ever been produced. It's incredible. I don't really know what more to say. Also, this is the song that they use to open all their gigs. And I was speaking to a friend. I'm unfortunate to not have seen Korn live yet, but I would like to see them live. But I was speaking to a friend who has watched them live, and he was saying this was an outdoor gig. It was during Download, I believe he said. It was one of the downloads. It was an outdoor gig, and he was stood really quite far back as well. Like it wasn't exactly like he was close. And he said Korn came out, the hi-hat started, or whatever. I think it's the hi-hat that gets hit. Obviously the anticipation, the circle pit's going, but then when you get the "Are you ready?" and it boom, because he said Fieldy's bass was so powerful Like, bearing in mind this is an outdoor gig, so the sound is able to escape and get out, and he was really far back. He said the bass was so powerful and so strong, he could feel his fillings rattling, and it hurt his teeth.
Oh, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
he said literally all across his jaw was aching, where his teeth were aching, and he said he could literally feel the fillings. He had a couple of fillings in his back teeth. He could feel them shaking. He said he's never had anything like it. So you can imagine that power that is producing with this song. He said it was almost unbearable, but like he stayed for the gig, but he said it was like nothing he's ever experienced before.
But addictive.
Oh yeah. So my number one is Korn's A Blind by Korn from their 94 album Korn, self-titled.
That's amazing. That's a fantastic pick, I think, so, Ben, for number one. Again, that's an album I need to listen to again to really remember its full sort of contribution. But just as a singer, for what came later, I think maybe as individual members and what they contributed to individually in the instrument, I would like to think probably Jonathan Davis gave the biggest contribution to what frontmen do and rhythmically what they do vocally, potentially with metal, where you incorporate elements of rap and elements of reggae. I think that became quite common in new metal later on, and even potentially, because Serge Tankian of System of a Down even does a little bit of that as well. Maybe that was a influence, but what he was doing in 1994, there were plenty of, again, it's not like Korn were influenced by it, and it's not just metal. You got, again, I said, it feels like elements of reggae and then hip hop in it as well. So that's what makes the sound so great. Again, it's just this wonderful blend of so many things happening at once. It's almost like a jam when that song opens up and you just got each instrument taking the time, but it's great, as you said, building anticipation. And it's just really, it's almost like a question answer thing. It's you're almost like looking around the room. Where's the next thing coming? And again, the anticipation thing is just amazing. And it's such a, and again, when it drops, again, that's one of the songs you just wish to be flying a wall at a Wacken concert, download or wherever you are, just to see what the crowd are doing, because there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of bouncing.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, dude, that was really, really enjoyable. I really enjoyed just delving deep and just trying to put this list together. So I don't know if you want to do a quick run through without explaining the same amount again, but I'm just going to remind everyone my top 10 by which just by the band, maybe not. Actually, I'll say well, if you can say the album, great. I think I know all the names of the albums. So my number 10 was Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses from the 1987 Appetite for Destruction album. Number 9, I've got The Exorcist from Possessed's 1985 album Seven Churches. Number 8, I've got Slayer's Disciple from the 2001 God Hates Us All album. Number 7, I've got Anthrax's Death Rider from the 1984 album Fistful of Metal. Number 6, I've got Paper Cut by Linkin Park from Hybrid Theory in 2000. Number 5, Imperium by Machine Head from Through the Ashes of Empires from the 2003 album. Number 4, it's Manowar's All Men Play on 10 from the 1984 album Sign of the Hammer. Number 3, Judas Priest, Judas Rising from the Angel of Retribution album in 2005. Number 2, Dragon Forces Through the Fire and the Flames from the 2006 album Inhuman Rampage. And finally, shock, is Metallica's Ain't My Bitch from their 1996 album Load. Lovely. So you'd have to do it with the years if you want, Ben, but just if anyone's listening wanted to double check when it was. I seem to remember dates quite easily somehow.
Yeah, I have a bit of a problem with mine. Mine are not in the order. I have a list, and I was picking them out as I was doing it. I didn't actually put the order in.
Hey, it doesn't matter.
In case anyone has noticed, there's a slight wardrobe change here because this second half of the video had to be recorded on a separate day, which means I've slept since the time that I'd done my first 5. So I'll attempt to do the top 10, but if it doesn't add up with what I'd done earlier on in this video, I apologize, but you get the gist. So my number 10, I definitely know what my number 10 was, and that was Ruin by Lamb of God, from their 2003 album, As the Palaces Burn. Number 9, I believe, pure memory, and my memory isn't great, I think I gave it to Given Up by Linkin Park from the 2006. I'm not going to do dates because I can't remember.
No worries.
Given Up by Linkin Park,
right, anyway.
off Minutes to Midnight. Number 8, I believe I gave it to, looking at this, was Blood and Thunder by Mastodon, off Leviathan. It's an incredible album. Number 7 was also Death Rider by Anthrax. Number 6 was Alice in Hell by Annihilator from the album Alice in Hell. Number 5 was, I've lost it. I've lost it. Oh, yeah. What's my number? Oh, yeah. Number 5 was People Equal Shit. I can't even remember what I've done for my number 5. Because they're not in order. Yes. And that's the thing. As we were saying, the beauty with this is this order I could wake up tomorrow and this order could be different. Hence why it could be so difficult. So yeah, People Equal Shit by Slipknot off Iowa was my number 5. Number 4 was
Thrash Till Death.
Thrash Till Death, by Destruction off the album Antichrist. Number 3 was Fight Fire with Fire by Metallica off Ride the Lightning. Number 2 was Holy Wars by Megadeth off Rust in Peace. And my number 1 was Blind by Korn off their self-titled debut album, Korn.
Brilliant. Thank you, Papa Ben. That was we got there in the end. That was honestly, that was great fun. I really look forward to potentially revisiting this idea, because we could have listened to 300 albums between us the time we do this next, and we could have discovered or rediscovered a pile of songs, or even sort of got a newfound love for other songs which we know about, but are sort of buried deep in our memory.
I think the fact that we've done top 10 opening, I think it's only fair that our next top 10 is probably top 10 closing songs of an album.
So yeah, you heard it here, and that will be happening next. So stay tuned for our next top 10 in the series of top 10s on our podcast, Fathers of Metal. So to all our listeners, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd. Thank you very much for your company as ever. And remember, no matter the podcast topic, thank you, man. Yeah, so guys, remember the podcast topic, whether it's whammy bars or weaning, napalm death or nappies, it's always good to talk. So for myself, Daddy Hugh.
And myself, Papa Ben, have a lovely morning, afternoon or evening whenever you listen to this, and we will see you in the next video.
Cool. All the best. Catch you soon.
Bye.